Hi, friends. It is Monday, May 18th, 2020. So, we are continuing our data and graphing unit, and today we're going to be learning about bar graphs. So, our learning targets are we can use bar graphs to represent data, and we can analyze data on a bar graph and answer questions about the data. So, let's review what data is. Data is information that is collected. We use data to do research or to discuss different ideas and topics. So the question is, what's your favorite fruit? And then this is how one way you can represent the data using picture graphs, which we worked on last week. And then today we're going to be learning a new way to represent data. So the new way we're going to use is a bar graph. So what is a bar graph? A bar graph is another type of graph that is used to represent data. And then this is an example of a bar graph. Now it's called a bar graph because you color in kind of like strips that look like a bar. Okay, so what's your favorite form of transportation is the research that somebody may be asking, and then you can choose from skateboard, inline skates, which are also called rollerblades, and bicycle. And then for skateboard, you fill in all the way up till eight because 8 students chose skateboard. 6 students chose rollerblades, so you fill up to 6, and then bicycle, 9 students chose bicycle, so you fill in a bar up until the number 9. So on a bar graph, you always have the numbers so that you know wherever the bar stops, that's the total for that item or category. Okay, so let's look at how to start and build a bar graph. So this is the data we're going to be using. It's a chart that shows our birthdays organized by seasons. So the different seasons are spring, summer, fall, and winter. And then under each season is the months. So I've written all of our birthdays. And so 5 of us have birthdays in spring. 5 have birthdays in summer. 4 people have birthdays in the fall. And then 8 people have birthdays in the winter. So this is the data that we collected. And then we're going to use this blank bar graph to fill in our data for our birthdays in room 15. Okay, so let's fill in the title and the categories on the bar graph. So we used picture graphs last Thursday, and we did the same thing. So first you need a title, which is our birthdays, and then the categories would be the seasons. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. Okay, and then remember, you need to fill in the numbers so that you know where to stop filling in each bar based on the totals. Oh, and you know what, my friends? This should be 5. Sorry about that. Okay. So here I've filled in the numbers on the bottom of the bar graph so you know where to stop filling in each bar. So the last thing we need to do is color in the bars for the bar graph. Okay, so for spring, we'll fill up till 5. So as you can see, right here is where the 5 stops. Okay, and then same with summer. Fall is filled in up to 4. And then winter, we would fill in up to the number 8. Okay, and then we just created our bar graph. Here's another example of a bar graph. So the data is how many, your favorite books. So this is just an example. The favorite books the categories are The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, Click, Clack, Moo, Cows That Type, and Zen Shorts. So this bar graph so the bar graph that we just looked at for birthdays, the bars are horizontally, drawn in horizontally. And then here's another example, and these bars are vertically, okay? So if you take a look at the side, okay, if you're using this type of bar graph, the very bottom would be 0. And so you have to fill in 0 just to show that, because if it were 1, you wouldn't want this to start with 1. You would want it to start at 0 because let's say only one person chose a book. You would want this line to be a 1. So then you can show that just one person chose one of the books and you would fill it in like that versus this being 1. Because if this was 1, you wouldn't have anything to fill in. So that's why we start this type of bar graph at 0. Okay. Now, you are going to be answering questions about the data again. And let me remind you that you're going to have to write a comparing question. So remember, comparing means how much more or how much fewer. So here are 2 examples of sentence frames, or I guess question frames, that you could use to write that comparing question. How many more blank than blank is or are there? Or how many fewer blank than blank is or are there? Okay, my friends, so let's take a look at an example of a sheet that you would use or questions that you would be filling in a bar graph. Okay, so, okay, let me just get rid of some of these windows back here. Okay, now, so you are going to have to complete a bar graph, and then let's take a look at the data, okay? So complete the bar graph using the table with the types of reptiles at the local zoo. Then answer the questions below. So here we have the chart that has the types of reptiles, and then our categories are snakes, lizards, turtles, tortoises. So like before, you need to fill in the title, and then we would need to fill in the categories, okay? So let me pause my video and fill that in so that it's a little bit quicker. Okay, friends, so I filled in the title of our bar graph right here, and then I filled in the categories right here, okay? So now what I need to do is on the very bottom right here, I need to fill in the numbers, okay? So I know where to stop typing or coloring in each bar. So for this type of graph, I am going to start at 1, not 0, okay? So I'm going to start at 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to fill it in all the way up until there are no more spaces. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this highlighting tool. So I'm going to choose different colors for each animal. So for snakes, I'm going to go up to 13, which would be right here. Okay, so for snakes, I'm going to fill in this bar graph all the way up till 13, and you want to fill in that whole section. Okay, and there we go. And then I'll choose another color for lizards, and I see lizards is 11, so I'm going to skip this line right here just to have a little bit of separation. And then for 13, it looks, oh no, 11, sorry. It looks like it stops right here. I'm going to fill in that whole section, just color it in. And if you were doing this a piece of paper, you could color in with crayons or colored pencils or pencil, whatever works. And then for turtles, I'll use dark green. Oh wait, I think I already used that. I'll use this light green. So turtles, it looks like I have 7, so it stops right here. Once again, I need to skip that line just to have a little separation between my bars. And then for tortoises, I'll use orange, which is 8. So 8 looks like it stops here. Okay, and we just filled in our bar graph. So now let's look at the questions. So how many reptiles are at the zoo? So these are all reptiles, so I need to, and you want to make sure that you write your equation. A lot of you forgot to write equations when you submitted your assignment last Thursday, so please remember that you need to look at the directions. If it says you need to write an equation, I'm going to be looking for that work. And if you don't do it, then I'm going to be sending it back to you to fill in that information. Okay, so please take the time to write your equation so I know that how you're solving the problem. So it says, how many reptiles are at the zoo? Okay, so those are my keywords. And These are all reptiles, so I need to just add all the numbers. 13 plus 11 plus 7. Oh, don't need that one right there. Plus 8. So I'm going to do 7 plus 8, which is 15. So now I have 13 plus 11 plus 15. And then I'm just going to use a vertical equation up here. 11, 15. We add in the ones, tens, hundreds. So here I have 3 plus 1 plus 5, which is 9. I don't need to regroup, so that's 39. Okay, so now how many more snakes and lizards than turtles are at the zoo? So how many more is always compare. So I'm doing how many more snakes and lizards than turtles. Okay, so remember you can use, so you want to use like that strip diagram. This would be snakes and lizards on top. And since we're comparing, turtles is on the bottom. So we need to first figure out how much snakes and lizards are combined. So snakes and lizards is right here, 13 plus 11. So I could just use a vertical equation again. 3 plus 1 is 4, 1 plus 1 is 2. So 24, this 24 would go right here. And then tortoises, if I look at my bar graph, it's 8. As you can see, tortoises is right here, and it stops at 8, right? Right there. So it's 24 minus 8. I'm going to write my equation. And the answer is 16. Okay? And if not, you didn't know that, you can use your fingers. Remember, you can start with the lower number, count up to the higher number. Question C. How many fewer turtles and tortoises than snakes and lizards are at the zoo? So once again, I need to figure out turtles and tortoises first, then snakes and lizards. I already know snakes and lizards for my last equation is 24. So now I need to figure out how much turtles and tortoises are. So turtles and tortoises is 7 plus 8, which is 15. So the equation I'm using is 24 minus, let me use a different color so you can see. (24) minus 15, which is 9. Remember, you can use your fingers, start with the lower number, count up to the higher number. So question D, let me use blue. Write a comparison question that can be answered using the data on the bar graph. So remember, here are our comparison questions that we could use. How many more blank than blank is or are there? Or how many fewer blank than blank is or are there? So I'm going to use how many fewer, okay? So I'm going to type how many fewer, and now, since I'm using fewer, I need to use, oh, sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. How many fewer? I need to use an animal that is less. So let me look. I think I'm going to use turtles. How many fewer? Turtles, then, and I believe snakes was a higher number. Yes, so I'm going to use snakes because that's a higher number than turtles. Are there? Oops. Hold on, friends. Sorry. All right, there we go. So I need to write my equation. Please, it doesn't say that you need to write an equation, but I would like if you could practice, okay? So turtles is 7, snakes is 13, so I'm writing 13 minus 7, which equals 6. And then a lot of you wrote your answer in a statement, which I appreciate. So if I'm doing that, I'm going to write there are 6 fewer turtles than snakes. Okay? Alrighty. So let's take a look at question 2. It says, complete the bar graph with labels and numbers using the number of underwater animals Emily saw while scuba diving. So here are our underwater animals: sharks, stingrays, starfish, and seahorses. So I am going to pause the video again. I'm going to write the title right here, which is underwater animals. And then down here, I need to write the categories, which is the animals right here. Okay, so let me pause my video real quick. So I have my title up here and then the categories down here. Okay, so now what I need to do is, it looks like now the bars are going vertically. Remember, vertically is like up and down like this. So since they're vertical, I need to write the numbers on the side for each bar. So remember, I'm going to start at, let me make this larger so we can see it better. Okay, so I'm going to start with 0 at the bottom, and then I'm going to write the number right next to that line. So kind of have to write small. And then when I'm filling in the bars, I just fill up to the number based on the data. Okay, so let's start with sharks. I'll use gray. So sharks is 6. So 6 is right here. I'm going to fill in this whole thing up to 6. Okay, and then let me erase a little bit because it's oopsies. Let me do that again. It's kind of hard because it's on the iPad. There we go. You don't want it to be in the 7. So stingrays, I'll use blue, which it goes up to 9, which is right here. Remember, you want to kind of leave that space to just create a little bit of separation. And then starfish, I'll use pink, which is 14. I'm going to go all the way up to here. Because if I go all the way across, we see that 14 is right there. Okay? So 14. I'm going to color that in. And then seahorses is 13. So it'll go right below starfish. Okay? So now I'm going to use my data to answer the questions. Okay? How many more starfish than sharks did Emily see? So I need to circle my keywords. Let me move it this way so you can see better. Oopsies. So how many more starfish than sharks did Emily see? How many more starfish, sharks, Emily see? How many more is always compare. How many more is always subtraction. So I need to subtract starfish, then sharks. So I'm going to look at my data. Starfish I see is 14, sharks is 6. So I'm going to write, remember you need to write those equations. 14 minus 6, which equals 8. How many fewer stingrays and seahorse did Emily see? Stingrays is 9. Seahorses is 13. 13 minus 9, which equals 4. Okay. And then write a comparison question that can be answered using the data on the bar graph. So remember, my friends, you want to use these sentence frames. You can always go back to the video, okay, to help you. So this time I'm going to use how many more. How many more. So this time you need to choose something that is more. Let's use starfish. How many more starfish? That's higher. And I believe sharks was lower, so you have to use sharks. How many more starfish than sharks did Emily see? I'm just using the wording from the questions above, okay? And then if I'm using my equation to solve it, oopsies. So I believe starfish was 14, sharks is 6. 14 minus 6, which equals 8. So you can write your statement. So there, oh, actually, you're going to write, Emily saw 8 more starfish than sharks. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at what you're going to be doing today. Okay? So in Seesaw, you're going to be looking for, draw and label a bar graph to represent data. So same thing, you need to complete the bar graph below using the data provided in the table, then answer the questions about the data. So on the left-hand side, there are directions, step-by-step directions, okay, if you need them. And then remember, you need to write equations, okay? So you need to write the title up here. On the side are the categories. I would use a text box if you want, or you can just write with a pencil tool. And then at the bottom, please write those equations on the side, okay? And it looks like here you do have to write your question and the answer for your comparison question. Okay, so I just showed you how to do that. And then you can always go back to this slide from the video, okay? And then here, same thing, but remember, this is a vertical graph. So you need to write in the numbers on the side for the bar graph, just like I did here. Okay, so on the side of the bar graph, remember right here, this is what I'm talking about. So you know right here on the side, so you know where to stop filling in that bar graph. Otherwise, you're just going to fill in and not really know where. So it'll help you kind of keep track of where you're coloring the bars up to. Okay, and then you can use these tools. You can use the highlighter tool and just like highlight it like this, which is pretty easy. Or you can use, this is called a glow pen, and you can use, oh, you know what? I actually don't like that tool because it's hard to tell. You can kind of tell, but I would prefer to use the highlighter, okay? So I can kind of tell, but the highlighter is better, okay? To fill in the bar graph. And then you need to answer the questions. Please write an equation. If you don't have enough space, you can always just write, like, put a text box on the side. Oops. And then, like, in your text box, write, like, 1. And then write the, or 1, it'd be like, no, I'm sorry, 2A. And then 2B. Okay, some people did that last week. 2C. And then you can use a text box for your comparison questions down here. And then for the answer, on the answer line, I would write the equation and then the answer in the statement. If you want to get rid of these tools down here, I just discovered from Miss Lewis that you can go up here, you click that, and it gets rid of it. I don't know if you knew that. And then you can click it again if you want to see those tools again. Okay? And then once you're done, click the green check. All right, my friends, good luck.